Hi everyone and welcome to Chemistry 1121 at Shawnee State University. I'm really glad you decided to sign up for this course. This course is actually one of my favorite courses that I teach at the whole university, and I think you'll agree chemistry is a lot of fun, so we're going to have a lot of fun together in this course. And this is a picture of me. This was snapped back in March. I think this was the day after we got the news that coronavirus was causing us to shut down at Shawnee State and pivot online. And so if you were here in the spring, I hope you had a nice and smooth transition. And I have to admit, I am a fan of in-person, but the online teaching isn't as bad as maybe I first thought it would be. So I also want to show you some important people. This fluffy little fellow is called Mr. Bandit, and Mr. Bandit's about 2 years old, and he also has a sister. And this is his sister, Miss Maggie. So Miss Maggie and Mr. Bandit are both 2 years old. Unfortunately, Mr. Bandit has a slight disability. He lacks the ability to sort of jump around and move his back leg so well. He sort of hops like a bunny, poor little guy. And he has to take medication morning and night. He has a really bad heart murmur. Miss Maggie's not so bad, actually. She's slightly disabled, but she's a pretty fun-loving cat. She can actually jump up on things that Mr. Bandit can't. And they have a big, big sister. And her name is Miss Sarah, and Miss Sarah's about 9 years old now, and she just kind of showed up at one of our neighbors' doorsteps and was abandoned by her mom, and we nursed her from just a wee little thing, probably about 3 days old, and she hates almost everyone actually, so she's an incredibly sweet-looking cat, but if you cut too close to her, she tries to claw and scratch you. She loves about 3 people in this world, and if you're not on the list, unfortunately, she likes to draw blood. So this is my cat family. So cats aside, you probably want to learn more about chemistry than you do about my cats, although I can drop in some hints now and again as to how they're doing. So this is Chemistry 1121. This is a copy of the syllabus. I will not be handing this out because I don't see you in lecture. I might pop into lab a few times, but it's Principles of Chemistry, and this is fall 2020. So I am Dr. Andy Napper, and my office is just around the corner from the chemistry lab, so Massey 323. Take the elevator up to the 3rd floor, get off. There's only 2 people at a time in the elevator, so you probably don't want to ride the elevator, but if you did, get off, walk straight ahead, and I'm the last office on the right-hand side. You can call me if you want to, but I'd probably prefer that you email me, and as an online course, it's probably easier to email me, to be honest, than give me a call. I do have office hours, and so office hours are 4 hours a week. They are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and the R stands for Thursday. At Shawnee State, we use R for Thursday, which is quite confusing. And they are from 2 to 2:50, and my office again is Massey 323. And so these are times where you can come in and you don't need to make an appointment. You can just pop your head in with a mask on and say, "Hey, Dr. Napper, tell me more about your cat," or "Hey, Dr. Napper, what's this molar concentration thing you've been blathering on about in lecture this past week?" And we can sit down and go through stuff together. So these lectures will be online, so if you are viewing this lecture, you have figured it out. They're in Blackboard, which is our learning management system, and you just go to the online lecture side tab, and that gives you the lectures, and I've organized them 1 week at a time. So basically, you just have to log on anytime after midnight on Monday, and you'll have a week's worth of lectures to look at. I've tried to keep them fairly short. I think 5 to 20 minutes is probably optimal. Shorter the better, but some of our topics are a little more involved. And after you've gone through the lectures, then you'll have lab the week, and then you'll have a online homework due at Sunday at midnight. So we'll just kind of walk through the syllabus together. So there are 3 sections of lab, section 1, 2, and 3. The only difference is which day you meet. So if you're in section 1, you meet on Tuesdays at 5 o'clock. If you are in section 2, you meet on Thursdays. And if you are in section 3, you meet on Wednesdays, 2:30 to 5:20. So you don't go to all 3 of these, just the one that you were signed up for. And of course, unfortunately, we are running our lab at half capacity, so we ask that you actually only show up every other week. You should have received an email from me saying that you are either the blue or the gray group. We'll see later on that there's a difference in the group on which days you actually attend, and so only half of you will come to your designated lab section at a time. I do have an attendance policy, and I'll just kind of scroll up here. These days, things are a little more lax, but basically, you do have to show up to lab. We do wet labs, and if you don't go to all the wet labs, in fact, if you miss 2 or more, then you can't pass the class. However, you do have a fairly nice absence policy here. So if you're ill, you have a doctor's note, you have some kind of documentation. If you are quarantined due to COVID-19, then you are totally fine. And of course, if it snows in August, you are also excused from lab. If it is an exam day, of course, you need to attend. We'll talk about how that only half of you attend each exam day at a time. So my exams are all Tuesday or Thursday, but you don't both come to both days. You only come to one or the other. In order to keep the room capacity at a safe level, I ask that you only come on your assigned day. And so if you are ill, if you have an accident or a family emergency, or you play sports, or there's some official reason why you can't be here, you just have to provide me within 1 week of the absence your official note, and you basically will be excused everything apart from an exam, which you'll have to make up. If we go to the next page of the syllabus, the required materials you should already have. So the textbook, you actually have, believe it or not, we have a first day model here. Everyone has actually got on day one a copy of the textbook and a copy of the online homework, which is called Mastering Chemistry. And so you have that today. Now you can actually go ahead and decline access to it and get your money back. You've actually been charged for access to these materials, but you have to go ahead and turn around and buy the textbook, and you have to buy the online homework. And quite frankly, actually, it's really tough to buy it any cheaper than we have it available for you. In fact, part of the guarantee is that you can't buy it cheaper than we can charge you and give you first day access to. You do need a lab manual. Normally we work in pairs in lab, but this year we're working individually, so everyone will need to buy their own lab manual. You need a non-programmable calculator like a TI-30. We recommend the TI-30 X2S. It's about $13 as opposed to $10, and it works just like a programmable scientific calculator, except it's about 1/10 of the price. You also need safety goggles or visor goggles. Those are available at the bookstore. Visor goggles are sort of a combination of visors and goggles, and they're fantastic at not causing your glasses to steam up. They are ANSI Z87 requirements. They are basically shatterproof, or if they break, they don't splinter and go into your eyes. And it's almost impossible to buy goggles that aren't ANSI Z87 approved. They're normally stamped somewhere on the side. I do weighted grades, and so I don't work on a total point system. That way, if we cancel an exam or we cancel a homework or a lab, then it doesn't really matter. The total points now are different. And so we're going to have 3 exams that I've actually scheduled now. They are worth 50% of your grade. Originally, I thought about having a 4th exam, but it would have been right after Thanksgiving and and sort of would have butted into sort of final exam week. So I've gone ahead and nixed that now. The dates are scheduled. There's a sort of a consistent amount of material between each exam. The final exam is fully comprehensive and is an exam written by the American Chemical Society. The online homework is this Mastering Chemistry thing that you have access to in Blackboard, and the labs will be a combination of wet labs. So those are labs where you actually go in and handle glassware and chemicals. We call them wet, not that you'll get wet, but you actually are working with sort of wet liquids, I suppose, and virtual labs, which we'll talk about later. So these are all calculated for you in Blackboard, so you don't have to weight your own grades. Blackboard will actually calculate it for you. And if you have the Blackboard app, if you go to the App Store and just look for Blackboard and you download it, it's completely free. And I keep all my grades in Blackboard, or your lab instructors will keep grades in Blackboard too. So you'll know exactly what you've got every step of the way, and you'll know with these weighted grades exactly what you would have ended up with, say, if I dropped out or something. Which I shouldn't joke, maybe I will, who knows. But the university will probably apply this to you and give this as your final grade. So if you do notice an error on Blackboard, just let me know within 1 week of the error of the thing being posted. And so that way we can get it fixed in plenty of time. So don't tell me around Christmas Eve, oh, oops, I noticed I didn't get a grade for my safety lab back in August. That's too late, so keep it within a week. I do have a website. I'll try and pull up a web browser here in a second, and I've got lecture notes, PowerPoint lecture notes. So there's sort of a hybrid between my lectures, which are relatively undetailed, not very wordy, and the textbook, which is full of words, of course, and pictures. And so some people like to print off the lecture notes and review them. They're sort of like a mini version of the textbook, kind of like a comic version of our textbook. There's practice exams, so my exams have sort of changed over the years, but you can kind of have a look and see what the exams have looked like in previous years. I always joke, well, maybe it's not a joke, but if you had a time machine and went back, you should be able to ace this class because I've got all those old exams for you. And so this is the website right here, chemistry1121.ssuchemistry.com. And I do weighted grades. I do pluses and minuses. So I've got a nice grading scale here, and basically a 90, 80, 70, 60 kind of scale here, corresponding to an A, B, C, D. I do pluses and minuses, so you have to get a 93 or higher to get an A. A 90 to a 93 will get you an A minus, but an 87 to 90 will get you a B plus, and so on. And if you're in the nursing program, you should be aware that you need a C in this class to count towards the nursing program, and you need a minimum of 73%. So I think in the nursing classes you need a 75 or 76, let's say, or maybe a 77, I'm not sure. But you need a 73 in this class to move on. So if you keep an eye on Blackboard, you'll know exactly if you need to do better or if you can coast a little bit if you're in, say, a program that has a minimum grade requirement. The lecture material, we're going to walk through the textbook. Essentially, we're going to walk through the first 11 or so chapters, and we're going to go, I don't know if you've noticed this, but we're going to go kind of in a normal expected order, chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if you notice here, we go and jump forward in time to chapter 9, and then 8 and 7. So we kind of go backwards, and then we go on 10 and 11. And the reason for that is that, although I think the first 6 chapters make a lot of sense, the solution material is actually a requirement to understand the material in chapters 8 and especially in chapter 7. So I think the textbook author expects everyone's had high school chemistry, they remember all the solution material, and then they can kind of introduce solutions in 7 and 8, and in chapter 9 kind of reinforce it. But I find that it's helpful to cover the solution material before the chapters where you actually refer to solutions. And so that's our plan for the semester. So this is what my website looks like. So if you go to chemistry1121.ssuchemistry.com, then you see something that looks like this. And if I go ahead and hit refresh on here, there it is. Hopefully you can see that. This is my website, and so on the side you've got course information, chapters, Vesper, and so on. So let me go ahead and take you to course information. And so if I click on there, you've got the syllabus, which actually, as of this time, I have not posted, so I need to do that. I've got some lab notes, and you may print those off if you want to. I've got some old exams with answers, so if I go back to spring 2007 and click on there, you can see what the exam looked like. And then if I go ahead and go back and click on the answers, you can see that I've scanned in my answers to the exam. And so you might find that helpful to kind of prepare for the class. If we go to, say, fall 2018, so exam 3 and answers, if you look on there, you can see there's some multiple choice, and I've circled the correct answers and so on and so forth. So you might find it helpful to look at those. I'm not doing the in-class quizzes this year, so if there's old quizzes on there, you can ignore them. On the left-hand side, you've got chapters. So if I go to, say, chapter 1, then you can view the PowerPoint notes. So I've made them all PDF, so you can just kind of go through, and you can look through these PDFs. If a lot of people would print them off and bring them to class, just because then it saves a little bit of writing, let's say. And some of the figures are in there, so sometimes it's a little more convenient to handle these figures maybe in a printed out form. I've got some simulations and animations on the side and some worksheets. And so some people have said, well, I'd really like, some worksheets to try some problems with. So I've linked out to a lot of these here, and so on. So this is what my website looks like. So I'd highly recommend you pay attention to the PowerPoint notes and you pay attention to the old exams. And so people have found those very helpful in the past in order to study. So moving on to the next page in my syllabus here, and so I do keep a gradebook online, so you can always look and exactly see where you're at in the class. The exam schedule is here, so our first exam is coming up in about a month. It is either September 22nd or it is September 24th. So one is a Tuesday, one is a Thursday. Half the class will come on one day, half will come on the other. There's not enough room in the class for everyone to be socially distanced, and so we have to divide you up. And so you have hopefully checked Blackboard and filled out the form if you have a preference as to whether you prefer Tuesdays or Thursdays, and I will be emailing everyone back Sunday night and telling you for sure which day you are coming on. So if you are the Tuesday, your exam 2 and exam 1, so exam 1 will be September 22nd, exam 2 October 20th, exam 3 will be November 24th, and the final exam will be December 8th. And if you are Thursday, then you are the September 24th, October 22nd, November 19th, so you go first that day, December 10th. The exams are all in Massey 020, that is the basement of Massey Hall. It's one of our large lecture theaters, and it will normally hold up to 72 people, although I think we've decided that there are no more than 40 can sit in there and keep distance, and so that's why we've divided everyone up. So make sure you come to one day or the other, make sure you check your email, make sure you calendar it 10 times or whatever it takes. The Mastering Chemistry is the online homework, and so rather than have a weekly lecture and really nothing to do for the next 3 or 4 weeks, and then the night before the exam you're like, oh my gosh, this is a lot of material, then every week you will have a online homework assignment. This is called Mastering Chemistry. You should log on the sidebar of Blackboard. If you go to blackboard.shawnee.edu or click on My SSU and then click on Blackboard, you'll log into my class. On the side you'll see a bunch of links. One says online homework or something, so if you click on there, the very first time you'll have to create a Pearson account. If you've used Pearson accounts for, say, math or a high school class before, you might want to log on to it. The very first time you paste in an access code, so the access code is right down here, and once you paste that in, it gives you full access to the textbook and to the online homework. The online homework will come due Monday at 12:01, the same time that the lectures drop, and they're due Sunday at 11:59 p.m. So I see a lot of people sort of log on sort of Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, and get it done. And that way, you've got a consistent weekly basis. The lectures drop on Monday. You've got your lab Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You've got office hours Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to ask questions. And then over the weekend you can study. And on Sunday night, the homework becomes due. So make sure you do that. I think you get up to 3 attempts at the homework. So you go in, you try each question, and if you get it wrong, it says, ooh, that's not quite right. Do you want a hint? And you can buy a hint for 3/10 of a point or 3/100 of a point. And then you get another go, and if you don't get it right, then you get a third go, and then it just takes it after that point. So you do have more than one attempt. The homework takes anywhere from 10 minutes to an hour and 10 minutes according to the system. So some of the assignments are pretty... Well, there's actually not too much I can ask you, so they're pretty short. And some of them are a little more involved, so don't get used to the homework taking a short or a long amount of time, I would say. So make sure you log in, make sure you try this before Sunday at 11:59 p.m. I don't want to see a lot of panicked emails Sunday at 11:58 p.m. saying, oh my gosh, I forgot to try. So get in nice and early, I would say. So the nice thing about having an electronic textbook is that you don't have to haul around some big 5-pounder affair and hurt your back. You have access to it anytime you have a phone or a tablet or a computer. And at the end of every chapter, there are a bunch of questions that I've picked out that I think are worthy of trying. The even number ones actually have an answer at the back. So on some versions of the e-textbook client, you can just click on the number and it takes you right to the answer, so you can check yourself. And I think that this is sort of where, this is the nice thing I think between high school, let's say, and college. So in high school, we might spend, 3 or 4 lecture periods and work problems and do worksheets, and I would give you homework. Here, basically, it's, okay, you got it, awesome. You want to do a couple of problems to get good at it, awesome. You don't understand a thing, you want to do 28 different problems, awesome, no problem. Some people, certain things come really easy, some things come much more work, so I was always a sort of a hard-working student in chemistry. It never came particularly easy to me, and so I had to work a lot of problems to really get used to it. So these are ones that I've sort of picked out. There's a lot of things in the chapters that I skip over. I sort of gloss over a lot of the, what I would consider the less important things. It's less important in my mind, I suppose. And so all these problems here I think match up pretty well with what I would say the rigor of the class is. So some people like to work problems. Some people only work problems if they think that they are going to have trouble on the exams. And if you print off the practice exams and try them, then I think you'll know if you need more practice or not. So at the bottom of the syllabus is, or the bottom of this page is the disability statement. And so this is a statement you should see on all your syllabi. And I think I can basically sum it up and say that if you have an accommodation that we need to provide you with, you need to talk to our Office of Accessibility Services. Their contact information is here, and let them know, provide them with documentation, and they will give me a letter. It used to be a physical paper letter, but now it's electronic. If you have had them provide letters before in previous semesters, you might think, well, naturally, okay, if I've got one eye, it's not going to grow back from this semester to the next. But in actual fact, every semester you need to contact them and make sure that they pass on the information to your instructors. So if you've done it before, keep doing it again. And until I get that letter, I can't give you the accommodations that you need. So make sure you get it to me ASAP. This is a general education course, and so you have 7 credit hours that you have to take in the natural sciences. So if you're in a science program, you take way more than 7 hours, and if you're not, you have to take 7 whole hours of science. And this counts towards the natural science component. It has a lab. You need to have at least one lab course in the general education program in science. And so some people take this class in order to satisfy the general education requirement. And I think that's perfectly fine. I normally ask here in lecture how many people are doing this, and every now and again I get 1 or 2. And there's only generally a small minority of people who do this. However, if you love chemistry like I do, and I have always done, then this is a fantastic class to get that natural science requirement. So here we go, we're getting to the end of the syllabus now. So who should take this course? I always put this in, and I think this is exceptionally important now we're doing it online, because some people actually take the wrong chemistry course. And I've had conversations around Halloween, and I've said, oh gosh, what are you majoring in? And I've said, you know, you're in the wrong chemistry course, right? You should be in the other one, and this one actually doesn't count at all. So you probably want to make sure early on you're in the right course, and if you're not, don't panic. We can get you switched over very quickly, assuming there's seats available. We can switch you over, no problem at all. And but also, it's sometimes nice to know that you are in the right place. I always worry when I go places, am I actually in the right place or not? So are you in the right course? So if you're in a health science program like nursing or radiology, you're probably in the right class. If you are in the medical lab technology program, then you have to take this class and I think our intro to organic in the spring. And if you're an education major, middle childhood, then this is probably the right class for you too. And if you're adolescent through young adult, if you're not being licensed in science, this one might be okay. If you are a science licensure, this one probably is not. You also, if you're interested in chemistry, which is the most awesome science there is, by the way, I'm married to a biologist, so don't tell her I said that. And this is an excellent class. And if you just sort of like to know how things work, and particularly at an atomic level, then this is an awesome class for you. So there you go. If you are a pharmacy or a med school major or a biology major, this is probably not the course for you. So keep that in mind. If you're plastics engineering, this is an acceptable course for you. So things have changed. It didn't used to be. This is now totally fine. So you are in the right place. Is chemistry hard? Yeah, it is actually. But it's not impossible. So I know plenty of dumb chemists, to be honest. I consider myself to be quite a dumb chemist. It is sort of one of those courses that there are a few people it just comes naturally to. There are a lot of people like me who it just takes a lot of work, and you can get excited about anything. So there's lots of things that I thought, gosh, I'll never possibly have an interest in 1930s era postage stamps from the United Kingdom. But when you get into it, it's actually kind of fascinating. So this is a fascinating class. It is hard, but it's not impossible. And you can get excited about it. You can form study groups. You can reread the mastering assignments. You can read the textbook. You can quiz yourself. You can review old material, and you'll probably do quite well in the class. So it's, you know, some people find there's certain topics that come very easily and some come very hard. I've had people who've sat in the front of the room and have just listened and gotten 103% on every exam, and they are definitely smarter than me because I was not that good at chemistry. So I know plenty of dumb chemists. I know plenty of people, myself included, who have taken and passed and done well at this course. We have had people who have come back to school in their 60s and 70s and have taken this and gotten an A, and so no problem at all. You can definitely do it. So the lab schedule here, so I'm going to go ahead and move this down and look at the lab schedule. So if you're a section 1, you're a Tuesday. If you're a section 2, you're Thursday. And if you're section 3, you're a Wednesday. I hope I got that right. If not, pay attention to the first page of my syllabus. And you have two different, well, you have a lab instructor, but the Tuesday and Thursday instructor will be taught by Sarah. The Wednesday instructor will be taught by Vince, so Professor George and Professor Weisner, I should say. And we have divided you up into 2 teams. And so you are either in the blue team or the gray team. So if you are in section 1, which means that you're in Tuesday lab, normally you would just all show up Tuesday at 5 o'clock and go in a lab and be done. However, now you are in 2 teams. And so if you are the blue team and you've gotten the email and I've said, congratulations, you're in the blue team, for the very first week, you will do Lab 1. And if you look down to Lab 1, it is Technique 380, Safety Practices in the Chemistry Lab. So you'll actually come to lab. If you're in the gray team, you'll do Lab 2. And see where it says Labster. Labster is an online lab. It's a simulated lab. So if you see any of these dark, bolded labs down here that are assigned to you, you are not going to come to lab. So if you are in section 1, which would have lab on Tuesday, and you are in the gray team, your very first lab is actually going to be online. It's going to be on Labster. We'll talk about that here in a minute. However, the following week, you see it switches. So if you're in the blue team, you're going to do Lab 2, which is Labster, which is an online virtual lab, so you're not going to come. However, the 10 people who are on the gray team will get to do Lab 1, which is the safety lab, so you will come. So essentially, you will come every other week. So blue lab will come this week, then the gray team, and then the blue team and the gray team, and so on. In fact, I think if you look at Wednesday and Thursday, I think it matches up perfectly. So the blue team come the first week, the gray team come the second week, and then so on. And I think when we get towards the end, we are just going to do virtual labs. So labs 12 and 13 are virtual, and then at the very end of the semester, there's no lab because we have Thanksgiving break and we have finals week, and there's no complete lab period where we can have everyone do an experiment. So that is the plan for labs. So we're almost done with the syllabus here. So the Labster, these are virtual labs. There's a side bar on Blackboard that if you click on it will actually show you the labs that are possibly available to you. Unfortunately, I can't tailor it person to person, but I think at most you'll see one lab visible on there. They should be done by midnight, or rather 11:59 p.m. on the Sunday after your assigned lab date. I mean, you can do any time it's available actually, but no later than that, I should say. So for instance, if you have a regular wet lab, if you have a virtual lab that meets on Wednesday, November 11th, and then it's acids and bases, let's say, and that's a virtual Labster lab, you need to get that done on Blackboard by 11:59 p.m. that Sunday following. So whenever you got a Labster lab, instead of, I mean, you can do it on that day if you want to at the same time, if that keeps you regular, but you just have to make sure you have it done by Sunday at midnight. So that Sunday at midnight is the same time the online homework is due as well. So that's pretty awesome. The virtual labs, you really have to use a desktop or a laptop. They say it doesn't work on a phone or a tablet. It might work, but they say it doesn't. So I would advise you to make sure you have access to a desktop or a laptop. And they say you have to use either Chrome or Firefox. I actually am a Mac person, and I like to use Safari. And if you use Safari, it gives you a warning. And I didn't investigate further to see if it worked, but Chrome and Firefox are free downloads, so I do a lot of work on Chrome anyway, so it's, Google's attempt to track you everywhere in the world. Since I'm hosting these lectures on YouTube, I probably shouldn't say that, but Chrome or Firefox are perfectly fine. You can do the virtual labs anytime during your available week you like. You can take the lab multiple times, but the very first go through it will give you a grade, and that's the grade that gets synced to the gradebook. So if you take it a second time and a third time and do better, unlike the online homework where your grade can actually go up, the labs themselves, the grade is based upon your first attempt. So the first time through, take it seriously. I think they say it's $1 million lab essentially, so you have access to some pretty awesome virtual stuff. But the first time through, take it seriously. If you enjoyed it and had fun, take it a second time. You can actually set things on fire and blow things up. Your grade won't be very good, but you might consider playing around. You shouldn't really play around in the lab, but maybe you can play around in a virtual lab if you want to on your second, third, or eighth attempt, let's say. So when you do come to lab itself, you will have a lab instructor that will not be me, although I will try and poke my head in because it would be nice for me to see you and maybe you to see me. We do require you to wear safety goggles, or probably you'll get along better with visor goggles. Those are available from the bookstore, and they have to be worn for all labs. They have to meet these ANSI Z87 requirements. And your lab instructor will go through most of this stuff for you. We recommend you have a lab coat. We don't require it. Personally, I like it because then my lab coat can get dirty and my clothes, they can stay nice and clean. If I spill something on me, I don't have to freak out and strip down naked and go into the shower, which would be really scary. So you can just take your lab coat off. You do need to wear full-length pants or full-length skirts. So the very first week, the safety lab, we're not doing a wet lab, so you can get away with shorts and flip-flops if you want to. But after that point, you will be dismissed from lab and given a 0 if you are not properly dressed. And the lab reports have to be turned in at the end of each lab. Your lab instructor might tell you something different, but this is typically how I run my lab. And if they're late, they may or may not be accepted. I normally don't accept them. I normally just have people turn them in when they leave. That way, when you leave lab, there's nothing else to worry about. So your lab instructors will be Professor Vince George if you're in Section 3, and it will be Professor Sarah Weisner if you're in Section 1 or 2. And so this is their contact information. This is their office phone. They may or may not use their office on campus. This is our secretary's phone. She can put you in touch with them. This is their Shawnee email. And this is the room we assign our adjunct professors to teach out of. They may or may not be there, and they may or may not give you more detailed information in lab. So let's move on to the last page of the syllabus. Woohoo! So you've made it to the very end of the syllabus, and so what should you do if you need help? So if you need help, don't wait too long. So seek it out quickly. So don't wait to the day of the exam and be like, OMG, so I just have not understood any of these lectures for the last month. So make sure you know the Success Center normally does tutoring. And so in the first floor of Massey Hall, the Student Success Center will schedule tutoring. They may or may not be doing it in these times of COVID, so you might want to double check with them and see. This is a popular class for tutoring, and so they may run it, they may not. You'll have to check with them. But my course website has old exams and lecture notes and quizzes, PowerPoints. You might like to look at those. Honestly, YouTube, so I'm hosting these videos on YouTube. Amazing selection of videos. I mean, there's some real terrible stuff out there, but the Khan Academy ones are pretty darn awesome. Maybe a little bit further than you need for this course, but they're an excellent place to start. You can actually download their apps and have all the videos pre-downloaded as well. And again, my office hours. The office hours are not for me to be in my office to write letters and do whatever I do. They are for you if you have any questions. So stop on by. They're Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 2 to 2:50 p.m. So stop on by with a mask and come on in and ask me a question. In labs, you are not permitted to use cell phones, laptops, netbooks, if there's such a thing, iPads, iPods, smartwatches, and whatnot. You're not allowed to permit they're allowed to use them in exams either. And so mainly for that, the reason we're doing it in lab, you don't want to spill anything on there. Some of the stuff we work with can etch the screen slightly. You really need this stuff sort of put away in your backpack. And then I always put this on here. All dates and policies are subject to change as announced in class. So as announced in class will be as announced on Blackboard, I suppose. And since I like cats, this is a cartoon of a cat ion. We'll learn about cat ions later, but it's a really cute ion. It's an ion with a positive charge, which is very good chemistry humor if you're in the know. So well done, you made it through the syllabus. Normally I would say stop, ask me questions, and we would spend about 10 minutes looking at stuff, but you'll just have to shoot me an email or stop by my office area if you have a question. Thank you.